what would you have wanted if you had a guess? Like thinking back to it, what would have provided you a little bit more of that support or that encouragement? Because you had to almost like reverse and be like, no, we're fine, and then isolated in silence by yourself. Like
Yeah.
what might have support looked like for you?
I think I would have liked to heard, I believe that you believe it's going to be okay.
Mm.
Um, I just don't, that would have, like, Michael and I just were just very there for each other. We're each other's support system. I had him, as well. But I think, um, if we were more open about what was going on, I might have gotten another support system in areas that I didn't know, but we didn't really feel like we wanted to go really public before we knew it was happening. But I think that if you were going to offer someone support and you absolutely don't know the outcome or you don't know what to say, I think the kindest thing would be, I believe that you believe that things will turn out, um, well, or whatever the situation may be.
Yeah.
That's what I would say to people. I believe that you believe.
Yeah.
Mm,
There's like a certain surrender, right? That, it seems like has to happen in a situation like this, right? Where it's like, okay, I don't have control, right?
Right.
I have to release the control and I have to just trust and hope and pray and all of the above. But I'm not in control. And, I think it makes sense, like why when we're in situations though that we don't want 1,000 different opinions, we probably want one, two, three good ones, right? And so
Yes.
that kind of speaks to something we talk about on the show, which is like, you know, um, good advice versus wisdom, right? Or seeking counsel rather than advice. And I think that you did that, and I think that that's a really smart thing.
mhm.
It's interesting some of the parallels. And Mike, I'm not sure how much you want to dive into this, but you obviously have had some. James came really early for you guys, and while the parallels aren't a Venn diagram of a circle, there's certainly some overlaps there. I'm curious. Do you have any questions around like how raising a child like Nick parallels to your life?
Well, there's no way that Lindsay, my wife, and I can relate to anything that you experienced with Nick. The experiences that we can relate to are those lonely moments when it was just us and there was so much uncertainty because of what we could call misdiagnosis. Like our son was at that ultrasound was diagnosed with endochondroplasia with dwarfism, along with potentially osteogenesis, and there was high, like according to them, it was like something like 13% or something like that likelihood that James was going to make it um, alive at all, because we had a stillbirth a year before. So it was like there was so much uncertainty for my wife and I around it, and that's why when I was reading your story, I was laughing and crying by myself, sitting there reading your book. I'm like, because it took me back to some of those lonely moments of like, how can I be a rock for my wife, and obviously, Michael being a rock for you. And I know there was a point where Michael kind of had a little bit of a setback, in your book, and it's just like a lot of that pressure that we as men putting on ourselves, and that's why I'm like so interested to hear from your lens of this
Okay.
as the mom, of like just those moments when you're alone and you have to continue to muster up that courage to press forward regardless of, shit, my rock isn't as strong as I need that rock to be, or these people around me aren't saying the stuff that I really want them to say. um, I mean, it's really beautiful. It's remarkable, the amount of faith and courage that you have had, that you demonstrated during that time frame. Because obviously, he's inspiring the masses right now. I mean, the absolute masses, and he wouldn't be doing that if you didn't demonstrate the courage that you had. So I think there's some people and our listeners that are listening right now that maybe they're not going to be encountering it for themselves, but maybe their loved one is going to go through a time of circumstance where there's a lot of unpredictability, or opinion or statistical evidence that's not in their favor. And I guess the curiosity is just like, is there anything else around that before we get into like the next part of the next chapter, which is like raising Nick, after he's born. But is there anything else under that chapter of like the chapter of uncertainty before Nick comes into the world and you give birth? Anything else around that you feel could be relevant to anybody that's listening right now?
Absolutely. It's actually something that Nick repeats often. What you focus on is what you get. I dug really deep, and I had no doubt that he would be born, that he would survive birth, because we were told there was a possibility one. I think it was such a deep knowing in, that kept telling me, no, he'll survive. He might not be the way that you hope, but he could be more than you ever thought. I just really, you have to dig down deep, and it is such an individualized thing for each person. And I just think that, you'll hear the outside noise, but that's okay. People can have opinion, but as long as you're focused and you stay faithful to what you really believe, your convictions, not only does it help you, but people around you will see and learn, because everything's about a learning, right?
I have one question on that. So what do you feel in your life led you to that level of conviction and faith? Like if you go back to Stacey growing up, or earlier in life, because my mom died when I was 20, and I think by me going through that prepared me for the uncertainties and the circumstances at 35, 36 when we were going through this chapter. So I'm just curious, were there some things that happened that in the moment of like Stacey before Nick, earlier in life, that kind of prepared you for this, that at the moment you didn't realize like this was going to be a gift for me? Like this actually is not here. I didn't know this was going to help me later in life with some things. Can you speak to that at all, if there was any truth there?
Yeah, I can. Okay, so growing up, this is interesting. My mom was Jewish, and my dad is Portuguese, so he's Catholic. I was raised in a very mixed household, and it wasn't until very late in my life that I found Christianity. So I'm a baby new Christian in this life. And in my book, I do say that I hosted like Bible study at my home. And I remember this particular day, just feeling really like empowered, like I got this. And I prayed for something, not knowing that I was going to get Nick. And I prayed, I was like, you know what, God? I pray that I can wear my faith on my sleeve for all the world to see. I want you to use me. Wow. I unknowingly, I prayed for Nick, and I got him. So I think before like the situation, I just knew that I wanted something to happen in my life and for my life, because that was my goal. Like I want them to be able to like see faith, like really see it. And yeah.
and you had to have your faith on display every single day, right?
Absolutely.
And so that's really beautiful. I'm curious about, Nick is such an incredible person, and there's so many incredible stories, right, about him growing up. And I mean, how did you like, was this just how Nick was? Did you help him develop this incredible mindset and this incredible capacity? And like, how did you kind of help him? You said in the notes here that you're an ordinary parent who raised an
Yep.
extraordinary kid, but
Mm-hmm.
it's like I think in some ways you maybe not doing yourself enough credit, giving yourself enough credit. What did you do to help him become the extraordinary person, not just to be successful, but to really be such an amazing person as well?
Okay. Early on, I absolutely made sure. Well, the whole goal was raise him just like the other kids,
Hmm.
but I just wouldn't allow myself to get frustrated if he couldn't do something.
Mm-hmm.
Just a lot of encouragement and trial and error. Let him kind of figure it out on his own. I know people think we're mean because he tells people, yeah, my parents put my clothes in front of me and said, get dressed. Well, we did.
Yep.
But maybe not as crass as he said. It was like, here, try to put your shirt on. It was very loving. We did it very lovingly. But I think just kind of encouraging him to explore and try things Nick's way. Probably what was one of the best things we could have done for him. Okay, you do it, but you do it Nick's way.